Hi, kitty cats. I am Amethyst Herrick, your hostess for the Purple Podcast, a bi-weekly discussion from your friends at the Purple Pod Clan, exploring the intersection of identity and gender, sexuality and intimacy, and community and spirituality. This content right here is being brought to you by supporters of the Purple Paw Clan. So if you're already a supporter, let me just thank you, first of all, for your ongoing support. Because subscribers have the perk of not only receiving new content directly to their email inboxes as soon as it publishes, but are also able to interact with every contributor directly, which includes me. And heck, I know I want to interact with me, so what the hell? If you would like to support shows just like this one, as well as other podcasts and videos and written articles by all of our contributors, I hope you will consider subscribing using those links you're going to find down there in the show notes. Well, I am very, very excited to introduce my guest today, Louise. Hello, Louise.
Hi.
So Louise, I took this from your Blue Sky. I think it was your Blue Sky profile, and I just love it. Louise is just a lass trying to live her life. Isn't that true? That's sort of the transgender story there. Louise is also a huge transgender advocate and also hostess of the Tea Elders podcast, which is pretty cool. I like this. Which, by the way, go and subscribe to Louise. It's LouLou 34. It's going to be down there in 43. Whoops. It's LouLou 43, which is one more than the answer to life, the universe, and everything. So it must be even better, I figure. It's like the next answer to... Anyway, that'll be down in the show notes. So, Louise, your podcast is all about... the way that I think of it, you're trying to preserve transgender stories from our past. Not that distant of a past, right? We're not that distant, but we want to preserve these stories for the future community. And I'm curious first. Has history always been like a big thing to you? Why would you choose to preserve these stories?
I think, yes, I kind of liked the history within our community, and obviously I think it's the thing of when they turn around and say trans people have only been a recent phenomenon. Or it's like, no,
Right.
it's like we've always existed in very early cultures, and there's historical evidence of this. And then even when we go to the likes of, obviously, the Germans and that famous picture of the burning of the books, but that was historical evidence from the Institute of Sexology.
Right.
So that where obviously Lily Arrow had her surgery, the Danish girl. And this was historical evidence of our community and these groundbreaking procedures and treatments getting lost.
Right.
So then when we come up to like current day and people are like, oh, trans, it's a recent thing. No, we've always been there. I think for me, it was... I know when I was growing up and obviously being an early transitioner and things, it was stories being recorded at that point for me were in the likes of books and autobiographies and things like that. And yeah, I think they're fantastic too. But given the tools that we have now with the likes of podcasts and things like that, and being able to reach out to people and get in contact and liaise with people within our community, I think it's great to bring us together like this to share our stories and experiences.
Yeah.
And I think obviously like using like the Tea Elders, it was kind of like a spin on things for me because yes, I've had other various people and interviewed people on my podcast, but I think it's cool because I see so many other podcasts out there of the younger generation. But to have some of us girls that were literally that younger generation 10, 20, 30 years ago, it's like we were the dolls of the day.
Right.
And sharing our experiences for the community now, especially when we're being so targeted and so victimized, I think people understanding the things that we've gone through to try and give them a bit of strength and a bit of hope. I think that's kind of my hope with my podcast, that people can see this and to get our voices heard. So yeah.
I love that. I've got to ask the question, 'cause, so when we're talking T elders, we're talking about people who did transition some years ago. Is there a threshold level of? Because I'm presuming I don't fit as a T elder, despite being old.
No, I only used the T elders because, like, more importantly, it was like, well, it was a spin on the things, obviously, for myself, because technically, even though I'm not that old, it's like technically I'm referred to as a T elder, given like
Right.
the length of the transition journey. But no, it's, to me, as long as somebody's got an important and valued story within our community. I know one of my recent guests that I've interviewed, that's an upcoming episode. She's not trans, but her daughter was trans.
I see.
It's I'm not sure if you're aware of her, Caroline Littman, the British author of Alice.
Yes, I think. Yeah.
Yes. Well, I interviewed her because she's
Cool.
such a strong ally within our community and the things that she went through, her family went through. I think that was such an important story to share. So the T elders isn't just people that transitioned a very, very long time ago.
Okay.
It just happened that I'm the host. And it's a witty it's a witty name.
No, I love it. I mean, and I don't, that wasn't supposed to be, by the way, like a ploy to go, hey, can I get on your podcast? That wasn't the intent.
Well, I'm sure we could start something. We'll get it rolling first.
Of course. I agree with you. I think, we've got this perception today that no, we never used the word gender until like 1991 or even, before that or later than that, 2000s. We didn't care about gender until we had rapid onset gender disorder. I've got to put that in quotation fingers because it's difficult to say ROGD with a straight face. But so I think it's important to preserve these. And I gotta, you and I had talked just a little bit about this too, because you mentioned you were one of the dolls, 20 years ago. I think this is great because I think, there's people today, right, who would just go, oh, I'm going to go transition gender. And it's, no offense, everybody out there, it's a little easier today than it was, say, 30 years ago. I mean, because let's see, I looked into it, 24 years ago. I checked the time. I just checked it. Let's see, I transitioned, or I looked into it apparently an hour and a half ago.
Wow, you're moving really, really quick.
My hair just grew out super fast. I don't even know what I was going to say, LouLou. What the hell was it? Oh, gosh. So even just like 20 years ago, it was really difficult. I can't even imagine. I know somebody who transitioned in the 70s, and I've got to imagine, like, how difficult would that have been? So, it's easier for kids today, sorry. And I think it's important for them to know these stories, to know that what they're going into, like, we kind of helped, build that for them. Not that I want the respect for it, but I think it's important to know, like, that it used to be much more difficult. And because it used to be much more difficult, we need to fight to keep it easy.
Yeah.
Should never have been difficult, in my opinion. What do you think on that? Because I prattled for 10 minutes there.
I totally agree. I think I know I've talked about it in like a few of the episodes on my own podcast. It was, I think, more than anything back then, it was because we didn't have the resources, like the internet and things like that. So for myself personally, it's 28 years since my transition in August. Thank you. um, so back then in the 90s, it was like we didn't have the internet resources that we had now, and that education. Um, so I only learned the things that I needed to do and how I could go about it through reading books or documentaries and things like that. And it was very hard, and we didn't have the accessibility to our own community. Um, but I knew, and I had to like try find that little bit of community that I could. It meant me up in sticks and moving to a different area to, because the gender identity clinics were huge gatekeepers back then. I mean, I was young, and it was like, we expect you to come to this appointment presenting in a certain way and like
Oh,
dresses and heels and things like that. I'm like, hang on, I'm still young.
wow.
It's like I'm coming to these appointments looking like I'm going to a funeral. It's like you're not seeing like a girl my age walking around the street like that. We're wearing like jeans or tracksuits and things like that.
Right.
So it was huge gatekeeping back then. Um, but I think it's also when you were saying about the generation now. I think me doing what I do, it's for them to understand. Yes, we went through these things. I know over here, like I went through my own transition, saw the implementation of the Gender Recognition Act, and yes, we didn't have the rights. We didn't have certain rights before that point, but it was more people weren't so much fazed by it. We didn't walk down the street and there wasn't horrendous transphobia or things like that because
Right.
people were just people just didn't care. It was just like, oh yeah, there's so and so. You didn't have
Right.
that targeted abuse by people that you get online now. Um, but yeah, so we had the implementation of the Gender Recognition Act, which granted us like the legal recognition, and things looked like really, really good. But now with the whole shift in the political climate and things and everything now, it can be such a daunting and bleak time for the younger generation now, or even some of the older generation that are just starting their transitions and things like that. So I think seeing people like myself or some of the guests that I've interviewed, just think, hang on, these people have actually been through it, and also understanding that we are there for you. We want to speak up for you, and that you're not alone. Because that's it. At
Right.
the minute, it can feel very, very isolating. So having people within our community like myself and some of the other people that I've had guests or people that I know, some of these huge influencers and things, having these people there as role models or inspirations to think, actually, yeah, these are people that are being vocal and visible for us is such a positive thing.
I've got to sit with that for a moment. That I think that's beautiful. I think so much of what you see I think so much of what you see today is sort of I'm trying to come up with a phrase for it. It is a sort of gatekeeping. And I mean from our community. Like I've seen content from people who said, "Well, look, it was really difficult when I did it, so it should continue to be that difficult."
Mm.
And I go,
See, I know people like that, but it really frustrates me, some of the ones that are like that. And I get that because they can become like a little bit stuck in the ways. But at the same time, it's like, no, it's like we're a community. And fundamentally,
yeah.
we're a community when we're stronger together. And with
Oh, so
everything that's
true.
getting thrown at us at the minute, we need to be stronger together and we need to be there for
Right.
each other. It can't be, um, I don't like it when see certain elements of our community disbanded. So, as I said, some of the gatekeepers or some of the ones that have actually managed to do stuff, and then they don't necessarily get involved with the community. And it's like, well, no, if we can formulate together and all sing off the same hymn sheet, shall we say, that's going to create better outcomes and a desired product at the end.
Right, right. I think the thing that was maybe this is just a matter of getting older, but when I was, 17, let's say, who even knows? But when I was 17, or younger, I'm just going to say younger, there were things that I know I railed against. That I was like, this is unjust, this is unfair, this is, and then fast forward 27 years, I've gotten through it, and I'm just like, well, it wasn't as bad as I remember it. And I think that's on me, not on the injustice, not on the system at the time or the system today. And so to try to gatekeep some of these things by saying, well, it was difficult for me, I'm willing to bet $10. Sorry, 10 pounds, 10 euros. I don't know which is worth the most at this point. Euros, maybe?
I have no idea.
Well, in any event, but I'm willing to bet that these people were railing against how difficult it was for them when they did it. And so to say, well, why are you railing against this? I got through it. Yeah, whoop-de-shit. Like, it was hard for you. And we shouldn't want it to be hard for people. We shouldn't want it to be hard on people to be who they are.
Yeah.
Period.
I totally agree with that, because it was hard for me, and I know some of the guests that I've spoke to, but at the same time, if I look it into the context of now, especially like over here, like waiting lists to get to the gender identity clinics, it's like, yes, there was waiting lists back then, but they weren't what they are now. Yes, we had the gatekeepers of the gender identity clinics.
Sure.
But you weren't looking to get on a waiting list that was like currently 5, 6, 7 years,
Right,
just to get
7 years.
just to get to a first appointment.
Yeah.
And that first appointment was then just to get an assessment. That wasn't to start hormones. So it's like, I'm sorry, it's extremely hard now. And then especially like when we've got like the government over here banning puberty blockers, and then all of this other stuff trying to take rights. Like, yeah, it was hard, but hey, it's getting a hell of a lot harder now. So us girls that have been through this, people within our community, whether it's trans men, trans females, or anyone that have already been through this, we need to speak up for our own community now. And yes, I know that we're feeling it too, but we need to still speak up and let them know. None of us exactly want to be advocates, but to like try fight for our rights, it's a position that we're being thrust into.
Right. Yeah. When I first transitioned, somebody told me, well, this is great. You're going to be a spokesperson now, right? You're a spokesperson for the transgender community. And I was like, no, I'm not. I'm just going to go and be me. Like, I just want to be me. Why do I have to be a spokesperson for anything? But you make a good point. That's what we've got. We have no choice but to speak out, because if we don't, it's just going to get more difficult. So, you've made a comment, and I don't know if I saw this on Blue Sky or heard it in a podcast. You made a comment about there's no wrong way to transition gender, which I think is an important point, and I'm going to let you talk. Could you explain that, please?
Okay. So for me, it kind of it's coming back to whether it be the gatekeepers or whether it be the general wider cis norm community or anything like this. Me personally, it's a person's transition is personal and individual to them. And just like any other person's life is personal and individual to them, it's there's no right or wrong way. I mean, I'm an early transitioner, but I certainly don't have the mindset of like people need to transition when they're extremely young. And no, a person transitions when it's right for them and when the circumstances are right for them. It just so happened that it was for me back then, but everybody is everybody's own transition journey is just as valid as everybody else's, irrespective of age, medical treatment, surgeries. It doesn't matter. It's like I could not care less if a person transitions when they're 45, they don't get bottom surgery, they've not had any other stuff. As soon as they just said they're trans and that's how they're authentically living, then that's who they are, and they're just as valid as me or anybody else that I know. As long as they're not going out their way to hurt somebody, and they're just trying to live their lives, like it says in my own bio, I'm just the last living my life. That's all I've done for all of the years, and that's all any trans person wants to do. We just want to be able to live our lives,
Right.
because fundamentally, it's our life, our choice, our bodies. So yeah, there is no right or wrong way to transition. It's down to the individual and it's personal to them. So each and every single person is just as valid as each other.
I want to amplify every single thing you said. The idea that you need to be on hormones or always present in a certain way or get surgery, I don't know. I'm confused by that. But, I'm confused by that because I want to ask these people who say, well, you're not really transgender until you got on hormones. Do they think that about themselves?
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
I would almost guarantee they didn't. It took them a while.
We all went through that stage of, they call it the real life test before you start and everything. And it's like, so
yeah.
We're all at that stage when we were maybe presenting as ourselves, but we weren't on hormones and things.
Yeah.
So it's how a person feels. It's just, I knew for myself what I needed to do. And when I look in a mirror, but for whatever reason, some people may not get specific surgeries or may not take specific medications. They're still valid as long as they're living their lives and that's who they are.
Yes. Yes. Completely agree. I don't think there's like a moment when you can go, all right, a switch flipped and now I am transgender. It's who you are.
Well, that's it. Like we've all of us, we've all been trans. It's just a matter of when that egg cracks.
Right. Right. When you end up accepting that this is who you are.
I mean, I was still young, so clearly mine was at Easter.
That's pretty
I got
young.
Easter egg and just launched it at the wall.
Boy, you told me your story and I'm like, oh, I wish I could have done that at 16. And then I look back, this is a complete diversion, but then I look back and I go, if I'd done it at 16, where would my life have been?
Exactly.
Hard to say. So,
and this is the thing, because I know I'm friends with so many people that may have transitioned later than me, and some of them have got kids and things like that.
Yeah.
And that was their pathway in life. And they're now parents, which was something that I didn't have.
True.
Yes, there's always been other means for me to potentially do it, but it was like having that actual child that I could call my own was, it was great transitioning young, but it was something that I missed out from that perspective. So there's always those different sides to the coin. Um, so that's it. It's a matter of where people lives take them. Some people may get extremely well into their careers and the things that they achieved in that way, and then they do it. So it's very different, and what happens in a person's life and how it may have turned out, as you said.
Yeah, if I wouldn't, I can't even imagine not having our son. Like,
Yeah.
I guess I wouldn't have known if I had
Mm.
transitioned at 16 or even 31 when I started the process and didn't complete it. But still, I don't know that I could. I wouldn't have known it, but thinking back now, I go, oh, I guess I'm glad I didn't. I do find it fascinating that there are people who have this misconception that you don't become transgender until you have transitioned gender, that the two are the same. Because I've had people say, "Oh, well, when did you become transgender?" And I'm like, I mean, like 4. I think I realized it, like 4 years old. They're
Yeah.
like, "Well, you didn't get surgery when you were 4," and I'm like, "No, but that is the process of transitioning gender, not being
Yeah.
transgender. You start off transgender so that you can transition gender." And people are like, that doesn't compute. And I'm like,
Mm.
really? Because what because don't you have to start off? I mean, even if we were to compare this to any other, let's say cosmetic surgery, so elective surgery, and I do not think gender affirming surgery is simply elective cosmetic surgery. I'm just going to go on
Well,
record saying that.
yeah.
If you were to look at, say, a breast augmentation, like at some point in your life, you went, gee, I wish I had bigger boobs. And
Hmm.
then you went and did it. But before you did it, you had to look at yourself and go, well, that's not quite right.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's a weird misconception. It's a weird
It,
misconception.
it's coming to that innate understanding of our own identity and how we present that to the world.
Yeah.
And I think if you speak to most trans people, you'll always get generally the same feedback of like, yes, we knew and stuff like that. But then, as we said, whether it be circumstances or life, the journeys take different paths. Um, and then those feelings of that understanding may be repressed or um, locked away in a closet or whatever way you want to put it. But
Right.
it's still there, just like gnawing away as like this little voice in the back of your head. It just like mine came like bolting through the closet and screaming down the stage. But as I said, I was just like slightly stubborn. I just knew that this is what I needed to do.
Yeah.
But as I said, it a person's transition. It just happens when it's right for them, and that fundamentally comes down to many, many different factors: life, circumstances, family, financial. There's so many other external factors that are involved in our internal journey.
I stand with you on that.
Look at me being very philosophical.
No, it's great. Ooh, that's great because I actually was thinking about going in a more even more philosophical direction. Because now I think we've sort of dispensed with a bioessentialist sort of viewpoint that you have to get hormones, there's medical interventions, as you called it. I don't know if I want to use the word bioessentialist, but you medical interventions. So if we were to go the opposite direction, because the other big argument about gender, we can just go, well, gender's anything you want because gender is a social construct. A misuse of social constructionism from the start, but we're going to move on from that. If gender is just a social construct, like, why do we care about passing? Just do you have to pass in order for this to be truth, to be valid?
So, me personally, easy answer, no. And I don't care if anybody wants to like argue with that. I'm sorry, it's a point blank no. It's because it's, yes, gender may be a social construct, but like gender presentation and things like that, it's fluid. It's a fluid spectrum, and people shift throughout that spectrum and throughout that presentation. And in any aspect of life, I mean, you get women with short hair or maybe extremely tomboyish, or you may get men that are slightly effeminate and they do the eyebrow. It's all a different element of presentation.
Right.
And but then also when you look at also some cultures, I mean, look at some of like the European cultures. They've got very they can have, some of the females may have slightly more masculine attributes in terms of jaws and forehead and bone structure and things like this, but they may have been they may be what you class as, this was a way that a person was born, or how they were perceived to be born at birth.
Right.
But it's like these things develop and these people can get misgendered, as people say now.
Right.
So I think a person passing doesn't, that doesn't mean anything to me. It's like, yes, some of us do, some of us don't. Some of us spend thousands and thousands on surgeries to make that life a little bit easier. Again, some of us don't. As long as that person is happy, it's like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what they look like. It comes back to that. It's about them just being able to live their life.
Oh, I'm with you.
I mean, yes, I know. I know. I had like FFS and things like that, and yes, I was also young when I transitioned. But I did those things for my own personal journey, not to meet any kind of social construct.
Sure.
It was just, I wanted to do them for my own dysphoric needs. I thought, well, I just want to get that sorted.
Yeah.
And yes, my general day-to-day life is fairly under the radar, but it's like, I mean, I still looked fairly decent when I had a nose that looked like Barbra Streisand. I mean, I'm sorry, like, the Olympic ski slopers could sleep down that thing. So it was a personal thing for me. And like the other bits that I had done, but so it wasn't for the passing benefit. So yeah, I think passing isn't a word that, or a thing that I like to associate with our community. or get it like when people band it around.
I really appreciated how you brought up other cultures as well. When I was in Thailand, so last year for my own surgery, it turns out this is my understanding, and somebody said no, that can't be true, and this is somebody who wouldn't know. So, but it did throw some doubt in where I was going to go with this. It looks like cosmetics are actually a bigger, like men are a bigger market for that. And I remember I walked through a mall at one point, and I saw an advertisement for this, absolutely beautiful man with these, great eyebrows done, and sort of pinkish lips, and eyeliner on. And I thought to myself, if I could have expressed myself like that when I was that person's age, maybe that would have been better. These are culturally dependent. One thing I was going to ask you too, there are safety concerns, right? Occasionally about passing. That passing will give you more safety. You're saying yes, so let me let you run with it. What do you think on that?
I think my own personal view is it's a double-edged sword. Now, my rationale behind this is, yes, it can have the safety aspect. I mean, as I said, it's like I've got my hair down, I've got no makeup on, and I can wear a hoodie. My own personal TL, there's a hoodie that I've got at the minute.
Yes.
And I can wander down the street and nobody bats an eyelid at me. And yes, I'm extremely lucky and privileged for that fact. And someone that may not, may then get those looks over the shoulder or things said to them, or may unfortunately have elements of physical violence. I know I experienced it myself when I was younger. I think I spoke about it in one of my episodes, and I think I've also done a post on it before, where I got attacked when I was like 18, and I got my whole right eye socket smashed in. So there's that element of things. However, on the flip side of it, I think there's the fact of if you pass extremely well, and as they say, it can then seem an element of deception. So
True.
If you're looking at from a romantic kind of perspective,
I knew exactly where you were going. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, an example would be like, I go into a bar and a guy hits on me, but then finds out that I'm trans, but because he's been attracted to me as a woman, then feels emasculated. So I think it can be, and then that brings its own safety issues. So, as I said, I think there's two sides of the coin, and it can be looked at from both perspectives. So I think there's whatever way you look at it from being trans, there's always going to be elements of safety issues there. I mean, God, it can be going out for a walk on a dark night.
Right.
I mean, even past that, I could like have safety issues for being like the fact that I'm quite small and things like that, and petite, and then someone said, so it's a hard one.
Yeah. I love that you brought up that romantic interests. I know I did a podcast, oh my gosh, probably a couple of years ago now, where somebody was like, well, I think you should be forced to disclose whether you've had surgery. You should be forced to before you go on a date, forced to disclose that you're transgender. And I'm like, why? If the person's attracted to me, like, just be attracted to me. What's the point? And the guy's like, well, we need to know if you're like a real woman. And I'm like, If
Yeah.
you're attracted to me as a woman, I guess that really just proved your point. Why do we, if you're only attracted to women and you were attracted to me, I think we're finished with the argument, right? I mean, there's no.
Yeah.
So, yeah, what are. Anyway, hard to get much, hard to go much farther on that one. But so in this vein, though, like as we talk about, people who may want to have romantic relationships with transgender people, etc. Do you see our I was going to say plight, as if every one of our lives is just this horrible, just a string of traumas.
I know. We're like trans Oliver Twist.
Please, sir, I'd like some more
Can I have some?
estrogen. Right? I'd like some more estrogen. Can I have some more? Can I have some more breast augmentation?
Like
I
Nancy.
don't even-
Nancy.
That was a beautiful joke. Where the hell was I going with this now? Oh gosh. Okay. So, and actually, bringing in Oliver Twist is a great point. When you look at sort of the transgender experience, I think a lot of this is ends up being like a social commentary without us even doing it. It's a social commentary, and I believe anyway that it's a way that's going to push society forward. You mentioned long ago nobody cared, right?
Yeah.
People didn't. They really didn't, and now they seem to. And I get that there are social reasons for doing that, but at some point we need some kind of, for lack of a better word, a social reform. An Oliver Twist story that makes us go, I don't know. Should we live in a society that is like that, or should we move forward? I realize this has not turned into a question, so let me actually try to.
But I know exactly where you're going with it. I mean,
Okay, good.
But I mean, for a second, I did like really kind of like think where you were going with it, because I thought, well,
Where the hell is this going?
mention all
Right.
the things like being trans. It's like what being trans makes us all skins.
Yes, right. And
but no,
you're gonna
no.
the artful dodger, the
Yeah,
trans
but no.
artful dodger can.
But no, I completely get what you mean, because it's like, yes, back then people weren't so faced about it, because yes, they may have seen things on Jerry Springer or in newspaper
Yeah.
articles and things like that, but the larger narrative that was given to people wasn't this negative targeting that it is now. So it
Right.
wasn't force fed at people, and because now we see it on social media and from the governments and things like that, and we didn't have that. So when people are literally having it force fed to them that this and this, it's like they take it in, and it's like, oh right. I mean, when they wake up to us, oh look, it's another story, something to do with trans. Like, yeah, we're looking at it from the other side, thinking, great, it's another day. Like, now what they're trying to do to us.
Right.
But it's like, yes, there wasn't that back then. But now we are having to do these things like these protests and these marches, and trying to speak to our MPs and elected officials and things like that, because these legislations, these are the ones that are governing us and how we live our day-to-day lives. It's not just, this is a story that you're reading in your paper that's going to be tomorrow's fish and chip wrapper. This is something that's going to be affecting our lives day in, day out, and the way that it's heading for years to come. Because to recover from the things that are currently happening, I hate to think about this fact, but it's going to take years to kind of try rectify this.
Yeah, it will. It will. You touched on two things. First, you said force fed, and I guess I think that goes in both directions. You know, there are people who go, why do I have to keep on hearing about transgender people? And then, as you said, on the other side, it's what are they going to do to us today?
Yeah.
I'd like to think that things like what you and I are doing, if not just right now, but in the rest of what we've done, some sort of advocacy, is just show that we are people trying to live our lives, that it's not a political statement to transition gender, but rather just another expression of the human experience. So I'd love to see that society just goes, oh, okay, it's not like these people are dangerous. They're just living their lives.
Yeah.
Before I go on, any comment on that?
No, I mean I totally agree because that's what it is. We're just trying to live our lives, but when that narrative is focusing on maybe one story or
Right.
two stories to gaslight statistics that aren't actually there,
Right.
it's like, well, we're going to use this one negative story to create a whole gaslighting situation about how to use the toilets or being able to use hospital wards,
Right.
banning puberty blockers, and it's like, but the actual evidence isn't there. So it's like, it's just mad.
Yes. Well, and the other place that I was going to go with that I wanted to follow up on, these usually end in legislation. They end
Yeah,
in Supreme Court decisions. They end in legislation. I personally, like, I will go on record to say that if you have no way to explain your argument other than because the government told you so, you don't even have an argument. That's
yeah,
not an argument. Just going, well, we're just going to make a law and now you can't exist. Okay, you've shown you've got no argument. You've got nothing to back up what you have to say, nothing of any value whatsoever. And I think
yeah.
those people should be taken the hell out of the government for what I, in my opinion. But
But this is the thing because it's so. For me personally, these people for many many years were just shouting into their own little echo chambers and
sure,
hiding in their little dark rooms. Pinky in the brain, how we're going to take over the world today. And it's like the thing that shifted that now is because these people have been financially backed or they've managed to get themselves into higher up positions. So it's created that narrative throughout the system and it's getting its strings pulled. So, for example, like some of the decisions that took place over here, some of these meetings of then what were then going to be the outcomes of things that happened after said decisions took place before this even happened. It's like, hang
yeah,
on, how are you already preempting what this outcome or kind of knowing what this out? So you've kind of like driven and pushed this to an outcome that you kind of already believed that was going to happen. And it's so worrying that
right,
this is actually the case because they are now starting to try set legislations. And the thing is so the Supreme Court ruling over here, yes, this happened and it was such a detrimental and negative thing. But again, because these people got this decision and they're in the positions that they are, or they've got the financial backing that they do from certain areas,
yeah,
they're now pushing it from different angles to then set other legislations and
right.
guidance for companies, workplaces, and it's becoming a whole like victimization, literally trying to eradicate us from society
Yeah, it's become a political career now.
because they know that the evidence that they had was never there. It never has been there.
Right. Right.
Whether you want to look at statistics or the fact that trans people have always existed, like whatever you are, gender affirming surgeries actually do help and preserve life. If you actually look at the meaningful evidence and understanding and research, it's all positive for our community. But it's been so warped and turned into such a negative
they've become weapons.
Literally.
And it becomes political careers. I mean, it's so I you answered my question very well there, and I guess I hope someday I hope we do see a day, and even if I don't see it, I don't even care, right? But I hope there is a day where we don't have to like legislate identity. You know, we can treat people as like who they are. Like, are they good people? Are they, you know, criminals? Are they, you know, I don't know, throw out whatever word you want, evil type people?
Yeah.
Or, you know, that we worry about like the content of a person's behavior rather than the way they appear.
Yeah.
I hope we can do that someday. I hope you know, I hope humanity survives to see that day.
Yeah, same. It's like fundamentally just getting to that point of like, again, like people just being able to live their lives. It's like, why? Unless it's for negative reasons, just let a person live their lives. You get on with your own life.
Right. I certainly, just as counterpoint to throw in counterpoint here, I certainly do understand that there are people who are threatened by men, and I'm going to say men, not transgender women. I certainly understand people who are threatened by men. I mean, you know,
100%.
Presented as a man for 52 years now, you know, with you know, breaks in between, but and I'm still understand being threatened by them. So there's a level of safety, there's a level of comfort, and I get that, and I respect that. I'll honor that even. That being said, like, do you honor one person's comfort at the expense of another's? Because that's not the way it's supposed to work.
Yeah.
So, all right, that was pretty dang philosophical. I think we had a great. Somebody's going to turn this off and go, I'm going to have to go and watch Pinky and the Brain now just to get rid of, you know, this taste of intelligence in my mouth. Right?
Either that or they're just going to be sat there, the Pinky and the Brain.
Either way is fine with me. But because this is a special Pride Month episode, I did want to ask this. This is my final question. Well, that's untrue. But, you know, the penultimate question. Everything that you do, all of your work, all of your advocacy, how is this a reflection of your pride?
I think it's a reflection in the sense of I'm damn proud to call myself a trans woman and the journey that I've gone through. And because of that, I'm damn proud of my community. And I will be visible and vocal and fight for them because we've got those capabilities now, and our community needs this now. So I'm proud of everything that it takes to actually live as your authentic self. Because it's not easy. So for a person to be able to do that, it's huge. So, and I think we've gone through so much as a community, and still going through so much. So so I'm just proud of my own journey, but also of my community, and I've got a lot of pride with that.
Yeah. Did you get another, we didn't have one of those, another heart there.
Mhm.
That was lovely. Thank you. I appreciate that. It's funny. I never used to care about Pride Month
Mm.
until somebody actually dumped on me pretty hard. And I was like, ooh, jeez, because I didn't think it was possible to be proud of who you are. How do I say this? Something I didn't choose,
Yeah,
like I didn't choose to have brown eyes, or I didn't choose to be born in California. I didn't choose these things. And I can't
yeah,
be proud of things like that. But exactly what you said, we definitely have to be proud of the journey that we take and the obstacles we overcome. And
yeah.
so I think that was a beautiful summary. Thank you on that.
You're welcome.
Here's my last question. Here's my actual last question.
Go on.
Presumably everybody's going to listen to this and go, "Oh my gosh, I got to go interact with LouLou. How do we find you on the internet? What's the way to find you?"
Okay, so I have obviously Blue Sky. It's LouLou43. Find me over there. I have my YouTube channel podcast, The Tea Elders. Obviously, if you find either one of them, then my links for others are also in there, and I'm sure you'll be attaching
Yeah.
links as well. And that's kind of like where I do most of my stuff, and my advocacy work and my podcast and things like that. So, by all means, please come follow me, or whether that be on Blue Sky, or come give the podcast a listen. I interview a range of different guests from our community, which I put up every Wednesday, talking about their lives, their journeys, their experiences. And even though they all may be different, there's still that element of commonality, and that coming together. And yeah, just sharing that, because I think that's what we need at the minute, our voices to be heard. So yeah, by all means, please come follow me.
I agree with you. So I've got a link tree as well.
Oh yeah, yeah. I've got Linktree on there,
Okay.
which also has like my coffee link in it and things like that. But any
Yes.
people would like to support me for like the work that I'm doing on like my YouTube channel, because it's not easy. It takes like a lot of editing and a lot of resources and like computer technical stuff, which
Right.
is everything. But it's also like a good way to support me. I mean, I know like a lot of people know that I'm currently off sick at the minute with obviously the surgery that I had on my foot, and
Yeah.
now then also going for a revision surgery that I've just found out that I'm getting 3.5 weeks as well. So surviving on UK statutory sick pay isn't the greatest. So by all means, if anyone would like to support me with that, please help me.
Right. Right. No, that's great. So I've got three things right now: the link tree, the Blue Sky, and the YouTube. If there's anything else, send it to me, and I will absolutely put it in the notes. But I stand with you. I certainly agree. All of this is a lot of effort, and and I will just say thank you so much from the community. That you continue to do this thing, and I mean, thank you for having a great conversation with me as well. As well. Yeah, there we go. Another little heart.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let me go ahead and do my little closing bit here.
Mhm.
I want to thank all of our listeners. I once said, I'm going to go off on another little tangent here, but there was one time I started doing this, and I meant to say like people who were listening to hear me and people who were listening to hear somebody else. And so I said, thank you so much to both of our listeners. And I thought, that didn't come out exactly right.
There we go. Two.
Yeah, hopefully there's more than two listeners out there. If there
Yeah.
aren't, well, I guess so much for that. But Anyway, I still love that. That was still I crack up about that. But so anyway, thank you to everybody who listened. My name's Amethyst Herrick. I've been talking with Louise or LouLou on the Purple Podcast, and we were talking about. We've been talking about our tea elders. We were talking about how it's gotten both easier and harder to be transgender. And we've been talking about what it means just to be a lass living your life. So
Exactly.
thank you again, LouLou.
You're welcome.